So if you have your Bibles, turn to 1 Thessalonians Chapter 2, read chapter 2, and then return and watch the rest of this video. So you might remember that Paul and Silas are writing to the new Christian church in Thessalonica. This church is made up of people who came to the faith through the work of Paul and Silas. And in chapter 2, Paul recounts what his and Silas's work was like when they were in Thessalonica. So, first of all, they faced bitter opposition to the gospel. It was not a receptive climate. It was not an easy place to tell people about Jesus. There was a lot of pushback, some of it verging on violence, even in legal action. Paul also reminds them that while he and Silas were there, that they did not ask the church, the new believers, for anything. Instead, Silas and Paul worked as bivocational pastors, missionaries. They worked with their hands during the day so that they could engage with people during the night and talk with them about Jesus Christ. This idea is rather startling to Christians living in the West, because we have now lived for a time in which, for probably more than 1,000 years, being a Christian pastor could be a vocation that was your job as well as what you were called to do. It was your source of income and housing and other things. And not only that, not only have we had a professional clergy, but we've also, for the last 1,000 or so years, maybe not 2,000, but for at least the last 1,400 years, we've lived in a climate for the most part, in which clergy have been respected and given places of great honor and deference, and we've gotten quite used to that as being normal. But the reality is that the Christian faith has largely been spread through the work of bivocational pastors and missionaries. That is, people who are willing to work very hard and make enormous sacrifices so that the gospel can reach unreached people groups. This is something that will probably become normal again in the West as the church's influence wanes and as clergy become really much less respected, and as financial strength for the Western church dries up. It is going to become more and more necessary for pastors to work and other kind of work, and to do the very sacrificial extra work of following their vocation and telling people about Jesus. It is also likely that we're going to again come to a time where Christian missionaries and pastors face large pushback and great opposition as we do the work of evangelism. These are things we're not used to, but we need to get used to them, because they've been the norm for much of the church's history in most places and most times. And for this to cycle back to the West could perhaps be as much an opportunity as it is a problem. I want you to also notice that Paul and Silas developed a deep set of relationships with these new Christians, and they in turn loved Paul and Silas. And in fact, Paul says that one of the things that he's most thankful for is that they now are also sharing in the sacrificial work of making the gospel known. They too are facing opposition. They too are sacrificing hard work and blood, sweat, and tears for the sake of the gospel. In short, they're imitating Paul and Silas, the two who led them to faith. Paul and Silas set the model, set the example, and now the Christians in Thessalonica are following it. So I want to make two challenges. One is for those of us who do the work of evangelism and sharing the gospel with others. Let us set such an example that those who choose to follow Jesus as a result of our ministry will then turn around and set an example for others. Let us set the example that robust, self-sacrificial, loving, compelling Christianity. The second thing I want to point out is that in turn, each of us should be thankful for and constantly remember in our prayers of thankfulness those who led us to Jesus Christ. Can you think of the man or woman, the couple, the Sunday school teacher, the mama or the daddy who led you to Christ? Are you thankful for them? Are you thankful for the sacrifices they made so that you would know Jesus?